Hello! Thank you very much for purchasing the Printful Etsy Fees Profit Calculator from my store. So now we're going to go through a quick how-to tutorial. We're going to go through an example of how I've been using the workbook for myself in my own store. So let's start and get into it. When you open the workbook, you will arrive at the navigation page. The navigation page has a list of different product types and then the corresponding navigation. So we've got apparel, candles, canvas, etc, etc. So these represent essentially the product types that you will see on Printful website itself. And the way that it's structured is all of the data is split by these product types, and then there is one tab for each of the types. So now let's go ahead and work through an example for apparel. I'm going to go ahead and click apparel, and as you can see, it's now navigated straight to the apparel page. On the page we have a wealth of information, including the list of the products for apparel, the category, the size, the color, the product price, which is incredibly important for us, and then we have all of the fields that the calculations and for data input as well. So now let's work through an example together of how I would use this workbook. So let's say, for example, that we want to sell a t-shirt. So we're going to come down here to t-shirt and let's pick something that I've sold before. Let's go to men's classic tee, Gildan 5000. So you can see here there are 5 different rows of this type, this product type. This is a really important point to note that, as is the case for most print providers, the pricing of a given product will vary by size and by color, and in some instances by other variations as well, such as for canvases, etc. They will maybe vary by the type of material for the canvas and other variants as well. So as we can see here, if we take a look, we have 5 different variants, and we can see that the prices vary predominantly by size. So if we take a look at row 88, you can see that medium, XL, small, large, they are priced, we will pay $9.25 for these sizes. And then if we go to 2XL, you can see we're going to pay $11.25. If we go to 3XL, it's $13.25, and then so forth and so on. 4XL is $15.25, and then 5XL finally is almost double the initial cost, which is $17.25. You'll also notice that depending on the size, there are slightly different color variations as well. So when we're doing our pricing, we really need to be mindful of this fact that the prices vary by size and by color and potentially by other variants depending on what the product type or product category is. Okay, so now let's just work through an example. Let's go ahead and start with the medium, small, medium, large and XL men's classic tee. So the way that I'd use the spreadsheet in order to figure out how to do my pricing is I'm going to go ahead over here and I'm going to add the product cost, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the cost that's already provided in the sheet. This is how much I will be charged on Printful, so $9.25 in this case, and then I will go ahead and add my shipping, $3.99, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my margin of 45%. So as you can see straight away to the right, the spreadsheet's gone ahead and calculated everything it needs to in order to arrive at the profit and profit percent. And then you can also see that there is a total cost, which is the product plus shipping plus the fees. That's Etsy fees and any other additional fees that you've added in the Etsy fees tab, which we will talk about in a little bit. So obviously the important point to note here is all of the product prices are in the spreadsheet already. You don't need to keep going back onto Printful to copy and paste the product prices, which I've done previously. It's incredibly painful and it takes a long time. So hopefully this will make you a lot more efficient when it comes to figuring out what type of pricing you want. Of course, you can use this spreadsheet to set free shipping. So I'm just going to go ahead and set a 0 in here, and then you can see the impact on your profit margin. Now, okay, so now we've got the high level view of what our profit would be, but perhaps we now want to look in a little bit more detail around how this was calculated and some other useful information. So I went ahead and just expanded this group at the top, and then this will basically give you the full transparency of all the calculations in the workbook. So we've got total cost, which is the product plus shipping. We've got the sales price, which is the product plus shipping plus the margin or the markup that you've applied. This is the sales price that your customers will see in Etsy when you create your listing. So there's a number of different ways that obviously you can do that, but the total sales price would be in this case around $20. Then you've got the Etsy fees. So we've got the listing fee, we've got the transaction fee, the processing fee, the operating fee, which currently in the US there is no operating fee, but if you're from the UK or Canada, etc., then you will pay an operating fee. And then there is a placeholder for additional fees, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we go to the fees tab. And then we've got the total Etsy fees in dollars, which in this case is $2.27. And then we've got the percentage as well, which is 11%. So that's roughly what you will find for, depending on what additional fees you actually add. You'd expect Etsy fees to be around between 10 and 12%. And then finally, you've got the total and the actual true total cost, which would be the product plus the shipping plus the fees. Okay, so there is a wealth of information there that hopefully will help you making your pricing when you're developing your pricing strategies. I'm going to go ahead and close this tab, and I'm going to go ahead and just scroll back. So there's quite a bit of information over here. We already mentioned the product, the category, the size, the color, and the product price itself. But Printful also has some extra information that could be useful in some instances. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this other group. So now we have the product category. So it's quite useful to look at the product category if you're thinking about the type of product mix that you have in your store. Typically you want to not just sell one given type of product. You don't want to sell all just t-shirts. You want to have a good product mix that allows you to potentially have products that are cheaper and then some that are more expensive, and then you can also do upsells and cross-sells. So product category is quite useful for that. You can have a look at and see how many different categories you cover, and then that'll help you shape up your product mix. Product type is just all apparel, so we can kind of ignore this one a little bit. And then we've got an example product image here. So this is a link that is provided by Printful. You can go ahead and click on that, and it was basically an image that gives you an example. You can see what the product looks like. So this is really useful just in case you're a little bit unsure about, okay, what is this crop top? You can go ahead here and click this link, and then you can view it. But equally, if you already know which product you're looking for, you can just use the product column, find it in the list, and you don't even need to leave the workbook at all, which is incredibly efficient. Then we've got some other information, which is weight, height, length, width, which is the additional stuff that may be useful but may not be. But yeah, it's in here anyway in case you do want to look at it for reference. Okay, so what I would normally do now, I would go ahead and I would just add the extra pricing for the additional classic men's tees, and then that would be it. That would be my pricing done. I would be confident that I'm actually making money, which is great, which sounds simple, but actually it can be quite daunting and quite difficult to figure out if you are actually profitable or not. Okay, so now there's a few other things that we need to look at before we finish the video. So I'm going to go ahead and now use another kind of useful little trick that's in the workbook, which is the navigation inside the product types tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the product column title, and that's going to take me back to navigation. Very useful. There's quite a lot of tabs in the workbook, so great to kind of have that efficiency and that ease of use in the workbook itself. I'm just going to nip down then to the Etsy fees tab, which is here. So this is where all the Etsy fees are set. So you can see we've got fee type, we've got the fee itself, and then we have the unit. So you can see whether it's in dollars or whether it's in a percentage. So Etsy charge, depending on the fee type, they will charge in dollars or they will charge in percent. Or if we're talking about the processing fee, they're actually going to charge both. So you can change these if you desire. I wouldn't necessarily say you do unless Etsy essentially update their fees. The other point to note, potentially the one thing that you may want to change, is this one at the bottom, which is additional fee. So this is a placeholder for any additional fees that you may have. So this can include Etsy ads, Etsy offsite ads, or even any additional tax that you may or may not pay. So each state in the US has its own tax. So that's why it's difficult to kind of to generalize it. So this is a placeholder where you may add that tax if you want to include it in your profit calculations. But again, it's quite tricky to do so. Depending on where your seller is will indicate how much tax they pay, and then that in turn will indicate how much processing fee you were charged. Because the processing fee, remember, includes the tax. So that's a really important point to bear in mind. Okay, lastly on this page then, there is a link down here, a link to the relevant URL for the Etsy fees where all of this information is gathered. So just for ease again, if you want to brush up on your knowledge around Etsy fees, you can go ahead and click this link and then you can read up there. They have separate pages for processing fees and for operating fees as well, so you can follow this link and then follow through to those links too. Okay, that is absolutely everything. Thank you so much again for purchasing the workbook. I'm on a mission to help as many sellers as possible become as successful as possible. I truly and sincerely hope that this workbook helps, and I'm only a message away if you get stuck, so feel free to reach out. Thank you very much, and goodbye.